Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Joe Emilio Show. I'm your host, Joe Emilio, and as you can see with me tonight is the one, the only, once back again, Santa Claus, ZZ Top, Chris Wyatt, ladies and gentlemen.
ZZ Top. Yeah, there you go, man. That's how actually I'm going to be an extra in the next version of Duck Dynasty. Yeah, just try to gonna fit right in. Yeah, just trying to make sure I've got the got the right look for it. So anyway, Joe, how's it going, man? Long time since I've been on. It's been a busy 2021, a sucky 2021, but a busy one.
Yes, it has been. It's been busy on my side. Good busy. And yeah, man, I've seen that you've also been busy. Rebranding. I would say your new channel.
I don't know about rebranding, restarting. That's for sure.
I was trying to make it sound cool.
No, you're much more generous, Ronaldo. I mean, Ronaldo just likes yesterday on his stream. He's piling on. He goes, "Well, at least I have a channel with more than 10,000 subscribers." And then Leon Lonigan, who I promoted his stream the other day, he was having fun. But Leon jumps and goes, "Yeah, that makes two of us, Ronaldo. You bastards."
Oh my word. Yeah, Ronaldo. Yeah, I can't really say anything bad about him. Because like he helped me, breach the 2,000 subscriber mark. So yeah. I think I'm on 3,000 though now. He had nothing to do with that. It was all
That's
me,
all on you.
Ronaldo.
There you go. No, nothing bad to say about Ronaldo. He's awesome, but he likes to poke fun, so we have fun with Ronaldo. I the rare times I troll other YouTube channels, it's usually Ronaldo's.
All the time. We're actually trolling him right now because he's doing a stream probably. So anybody that's watching us right now, go over to Ronaldo and tell everyone to come here. It's a lot more fun.
Well, I've never done that. That was that Australian tactic. I never tried that one, but no. I usually just put him on the screen and we listen to what he has to say, and I'll comment on what he's saying. So
Cool.
we have a little fun with it. But yeah, I mean, folks, look, if you're feeling really bad, you want to help people out. No, actually, Ronaldo's not on right now.
Isn't he? Usually he's on at 8
No.
o'clock. Oh, wow.
No,
He's not on at 8 o'clock?
I don't. Well, if he is, it's hidden. There he is. Let me just check. Nope, he's not on right now.
How's the volume now, Deborah? Is it all right? Please let me know. I did try and adjust the mic a little bit.
I guess when you get 105,000 views to listen to Cyril spew nonsense, yeah, you can afford to take a day off, Ronaldo.
All right, enough about Ronaldo. We're here to discuss other things. We're here to discuss
Sure.
South Africa and what is going on. I saw you on Big Daddy Liberty this past
Did you
Sunday.
see my phone? Did you see my phone die?
Yeah. But I did catch a bit of what you were saying, and yeah, it's a very interesting conversation. If you guys haven't checked it out, please go check out Big Daddy Liberty's this past Sunday conversation on South Africa. It was just after the president's speech.
Well, it was simultaneously. We're actually on at the same time.
Oh, were you? Okay, cool. And volume's good. Thanks, Joe. Okay, fantastic. Cool. I'm just keep it this way. Now, yeah, guys. I mean, it's a bit of old news now. Would you say? I guess, kind of, sort of.
What KZN and Gauteng, is that old news? No, it's not old news. The disaster is still unfolding in KZN. The supply chain management disruption, the loss of business confidence, the disruptions to the Port of Durban. This isn't over. I mean, it may be over people looting and burning and all that nonsense. Hopefully that is over. But the impact of what's happened will be felt for years after this. And the immediate impact is going to be painful for the next 90 days. So, yep. But at least we're not getting, we're not getting every 10-minute videos from people's mobile phones of people scurrying down the side of the hilltop after looting a game. Good Lord.
Oh, man. Fun times.
Okay. That's some dark humor there, brother.
Look, I think I don't want to. We don't have to talk about the riots. We all know what happened, but I do want to talk about what this. I want to try.
Do we know?
I think we know. Like I have a theory, and let's talk a bit about these theories. Okay. My theory is, contrary to what Franz Cranier thinks. Okay.
I haven't heard what he says.
Okay, so his theory in a nutshell is basically there were opportunists in the riots. That's where you saw like the destruction of some infrastructure, but it was not a coup. It was not a like insurrection or anything like that. And he thinks that the people that are taking the fall are going to be not masterminds. Like he said, like you're gonna be surprised with what they turn out to be. Like you're gonna think to yourself, could these guys really have planned an insurrection as the ANC is claiming? So that's his thing. Oh, and he says that the ANC never saw it coming. They were caught off guard. That's the part that I don't agree with. I think the ANC did know, and they.
Well, yeah, I actually find some of what he says, or most of what he says, to be pretty reasonable, but it's also needs to be nuanced in a better way. Yes, there were looters, there were opportunists, but there were clearly people who, even if they weren't plotting something, were political opportunists taking advantage of this. Now, on Big Daddy Liberty's broadcast, I'm not sure because I was looking at my tiny mobile screen. It was hard to see, but read people's faces. But I know I don't need glasses. The screen's this big,
Yeah,
So,
sure. Okay.
and I'm used to having a
Grandpa.
30-inch screen in front of me. Yeah, okay, Ronaldo. Anyway, so yeah, but I got the impression that because I heard a couple comments, I'm not picking on Ivo or Evo, or others, but I got the impression that they were attributing to me that I was claimed as a coup. I never claimed it as a coup. I didn't imply that at all. What I said from the outset, there's an eternal civil war in the ANC, and it spilled out into the streets, and that's exactly what happened here. There were people who mean ill for Ramaphosa and mean ill for the Ramaphosa faction, if such a thing exists. It's not really a Ramaphosa faction. It's just not a Zuma faction, I'd say. Well, Ramaphosa is the only choice we got, so we're going to go with him because we don't want Zuma. There are people that mean bad things for them. And those are people in the bureaucracy. Those are people within the Thule House. Those are people within the ANC. And that's clearly 40 to 50% of the party. So to believe that nobody sat by and let this happen, or nobody was complicit, is just foolhardy in my view. If you know anything about the ANC, there's a lot more going on here. And the reason I said that I got the impression that they might have misinferred or misimplied about what I was saying. And I don't know that was just my impression. The reason I say that is because there was, Ivo dismissed the thing about infrastructure. Well, that's really been pretty much all refuted. It turns out that they were just targets of opportunity. No, that's not true. Look at what happened. There was, in fact, a water treatment facility that was attacked. There was a crematorium was destroyed. Why do you destroy a crematorium if you're hungry? Are you eating cadavers? Are you eating the wood from the coffins? Are you cooking your bread in the ovens where they cook bodies?
What about the blood bank, though? Like, how do you explain
the blood bank being robbed? The 4 radio stations were ransacked the first 2 days, so they couldn't broadcast. You don't steal, transmission equipment from a radio station if you're hungry. Of course, you don't steal 65-inch ultra high definition televisions if you're hungry too. That's another lie. But they took out, when they say cell phone towers, now Evo comment, he said, well, the mobile providers themselves have reported that the problem was they couldn't get to their towers because it wasn't safe. Yes, the CEO of MTN said that. He also said that several dozen of his towers were intentionally destroyed. And these are not towers sitting on top of a game or sitting on top of a shop right that was looted. These are towers sitting on a hilltop, sitting inside a fence compound, sitting elsewhere. And the reason they're like this is to protect them because people steal the generators or at these sites, things like that. So they weren't just simply towers they couldn't get to. They were also towers intentionally destroyed. The first place that was attacked, no coincidence, was the N3, the main thoroughfare into Southern Africa.
Yep. All
the goods come and go down that road. I know. I've driven around those trucks. They're quite annoying. but the point is that wasn't constant. That wasn't by happenstance. And people watching my stream, I told people days before this happened that the authorities need to do something about OR Tambo and about King Shaka in Durban because the airports will be targeted too. And in fact, they tried to attack and loot the King Shaka airport, but the police by then had responded and they repelled them. Now, fortunately, it never happened at OR Tambo, but that's just good luck that the Gauteng thing died down much quicker. So, yeah, there's a lot going on here, and I don't trust anybody in the ANC because now what Franz Kronia said, they didn't know. I find that hard to believe. How can I, sitting here, Santa Claus in central Pennsylvania, accurately predict almost exactly what was going to unfold from the 29th of June before it happened in most cases? And they didn't get it in South Africa. They have access to cell phone records, to telecommunications intercepts, to snitches on the streets. They have 178,000 cops, of which about 50, 60,000 are on the beat at any given time. They've got military intelligence. They've got spy operations that can dismantle the Boer Mog in just weeks. because it's a threat to national security, but they don't know about this. They watched thousands of people show up in Econo and they did nothing about it. They didn't arrest anybody. They didn't, no violations, even though gatherings were banned. All gatherings, 2 people's a gathering, all were banned, and they did nothing about it. So it shows to me a level of incompetence and or complicit behavior in what's happening here by people who oppose Ramaphosa and his side of the government. It's my thoughts.
I don't think it's incompetence. I think it was like a lot of people. I think not extremists, but I don't know, the people that want to believe that there was this big coup operation seem hell bent.
There was no coup. No one ever tried to take the government out. How did they take the government? They didn't attack the government.
Well, whatever these people think, like whether it was a coup or insurrection, they want to believe that like this was planned months in advance and like years in advance. And I'm like, nah, guys.
Do you know what, Joe?
What?
You know what?
What?
They sound like Democrats. January 6th, it was a coup.
Yes, exactly. I think what actually happened was, Cyril trying to get rid of Zuma. They may have heard through the grapevine that, hey, if you arrest Zuma, if Zuma goes to prison, there's gonna be riots, there's gonna be this, people are gonna be upset. And then the ANC was just like, we're gonna sit on it and see if it happens, and if it does happen, we're gonna do some, we're gonna make it into an opportunity. Never let a crisis go to waste. And
Rahm Emanuel, Democrat.
Yeah. And I think that's what happened. I found it so interesting. I think it was day 4 or day 3 when this WhatsApp group just happened to fall on the lap of SAPs and intelligence. Like, surely you knew about that before this was going to happen.
Well, so here's the thing we find out. So, for instance, the insurrection on the 6th of January, Parler, which was deplatformed by Amazon Web Services, who they were foolish enough to trust as an actual legitimate business, but it's just a fraudulent leftist operation owned by Jeff Bezos. They were deplatformed because they were accused of spreading or facilitating the insurrection. But here's the problem. The Facebook is the one that did that. Hundreds of thousands of messages or tens of thousands of messages on Facebook, many of which people talking about they're going there, they're taking things, they're going to do something, we're going to stop this. And Facebook shared nothing with federal law enforcement agencies before the events. Parler, as it turns out, gave information from accounts that they deemed dangerous and curious, they were concerned about before Christmas. They started forwarding the data to the FBI. We have emails from the FBI thanking Parler for their cooperation with law enforcement and asking them for additional information on certain accounts they'd already revealed to them. So Parler, the legitimate company that's actually engaged with the Federal Bureau of Incompetence or investigation, depending on how generous you are, they actually gave them information all the way up until the night before. The FBI, the National Counterterrorism Center, did nothing with it. The Capitol Police did nothing with it. They intentionally allowed this to happen, hoping it would happen so they could get rid of Donald Trump once and for all and forever. And that failed. And this is where we're at. And now we have a sham investigation going on by a bunch of hyper partisan politicians, Democrat and 2 Republicans who hate Trump, that are running this thing, and they're not going to get to the truth. It just be like the 9/11 Commission. It was a whitewash to cover up their failures.
Yeah. And, well, Erica seems to disagree with us. It was planned ahead. Malema and Becky Chele visited Zuma months ago. It was planned. Look, I haven't forgotten about those meetings. I haven't forgotten about, but here's my thing with those meetings. I don't think it was to plan anything. All right. I think it was to create alliances or allegiances.
Yes. That's exactly what was going on.
It wasn't to down guys. You give the ANC a bit too much credit. Like, really, you do.
They're not that bright.
They are the kind of party and the kind of people that they strategize as things unfold. They see one thing happen, then they use that as an opportunity. They take it step by step. They don't plan it months.
They react.
Yeah, they react. They're definitely
reactionary. And the looting and the carnage is exactly that. I mean, we don't hear a word from Ramaphosa until day 8, I think it was, when he finally said something.
Exactly.
And that was only after he told the country, you've been bad, it's your fault, you're going to be punished for another 2 weeks, and you're locked down for 2 more weeks. And they said, oh, yeah, and the people out there, we won't tolerate lawlessness. Really? Really? What about farmers? What about cash and transitites? What about gender-based violence? What about 60 people murdered per day? What about 5,000 to 6,000 EFF supporters showing up in Pretoria demanding and threatening the South African Health Products Association that if you don't approve the Russian and Chinese vaccine within 7 days, we are going to make this country ungovernable. That's domestic terrorism. That's extortion. Nobody arrested for social distance violations or for gatherings, all that stuff. And then what about in Conla? Oh yeah, right. Yeah, you guys really are not going to tolerate lawlessness. As Ramaphosa was saying that, we're getting live feeds. It's like watching CNN. Did you see the Kenosha thing last year? Kenosha standing in front of the car dealership.
It's
we're hearing
fiery,
mostly
peaceful
protest. It's quiet, mostly peaceful protest. Dude, are you not melting? Is your jacket not melting to your body from the conflagration behind you? And Ramaphosa is giving a speech. We will not tolerate lawlessness. And we're getting live feeds of people looting Chinese televisions at Peter Maritzburg and malls burning. It's insane. These people are morons.
No, they are. And look, it is known that that's what I say. I think people don't realize yes, the intelligence. We saw the debate between I use the word debate loosely here. Between Bekele and intelligence, right? So intelligence was saying, no, we did know and we did warn you, and then Bekele is like, I didn't hear anything. Come on. He sat on the information. He knew. He sat on the information, and the ANC was like, oh, look at this. We have intel that there might be riots. Cyril, what do you want to do? We wait, and we use it to our advantage. And that's exactly what happened. And we're seeing it now play out. That whole PR campaign that he did when he went to KZN, to the least affected area, by the way. The president goes to the least affected area in KZN, grabs a mop or two, and says, no, we're going to rebuild. We're going to build back better. Chris, that sound familiar?
Yeah, it does.
And then we hear about the basic income grants. And here's the thing. This is the one thing that I really wanted to get your take on, Chris. Mm-hmm. I felt when I was watching this all unfold in South Africa, it reminded me a lot of the 2020 elections in the States, where we had BLM protesters go to businesses and destroy them, and people crying and hurt that their businesses have been destroyed, burnt down in a lot of cases. Different narrative, completely different narrative, but same visuals. And it hit me right then and there. I was like, this is about elections. Nothing more, nothing less. What do you think?
Yeah, no, there's definitely a role that's playing here, but I mean, there is legitimate stuff to the fake narrative that the government was coming out with initially. People are hungry and they are frustrated, but that's not why the looting took place. I mean, the obesity of most of the looters that I saw argues against the fact that people are hungry. They're just that's
I wasn't
just
looting, Chris.
nonsense.
I wasn't looting. I wasn't there.
No, I mean, honestly, and then when you see, I like to get the one video because I don't know if you caught my channel because I know you're busy too, but I took feeds that were coming in. If I could prove the provenance of them, or at least get some verification where they come from, I put them into videos, and I made a bunch of these videos. And what happened was that there was one video which the community security group, a private security firm, had a roadblock, and they stopped the vehicle that had run another roadblock because they shot the tires out and they stopped. Anyway, so the truck is full of all kinds of things, including Windhoek Lager. Yeah, because when you're hungry, you loot Windhoek Lager. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I mean, look, I'm a huge fan of Windhoek Lager, but come on.
To go down with the burger, you know what I mean?
Exactly. What a bunch of nonsense, man.
That whole hungry thing was starting to die out within day 2 already, because people were saying no, we don't. The Zuma thing was starting to die out in day 2. Then it was hungry, and then we heard shortly after that was SASA. Oh, we're not getting our SASA grants, so we're taking what we want. That also was some of the excuses going out.
So if that's the case, obviously not your point making this, but that's the case, then why weren't there SASA grant riots for the last 18 months when almost nobody got a SASA grant that was eligible for it,
Exactly. Well, why do you think the ANC has now reinstated it for 350 Rand?
Sure. $23.33. That's going to go a long way for a month.
Is that how much it is in dollars?
$23.33.
Oh my word. That's I know 350 Rand sounds like nothing, but when you put it in dollars, that's
really sounds bad.
That really sounds bad. Well, what is 23? Put it into perspective in America. What is $23? Because it can get you stuff. It can't pay rent, but it can get you something. What can it get you?
Well, let me put it this way. I don't go to McDonald's very often, but when I go to McDonald's, it's about $16 for me to get a meal.
Okay, so then you're left
single meal.
You're left with
$7.
$7. So what can you do with $7? You can buy Coke.
$7. I can buy one Frappuccino and maybe a newspaper, and I'm done.
Yeah, it's really gonna help you, Chris. A
No,
McDonald's
I mean
meal
it's it's
and
it's insulting.
a frappuccino and a newspaper for the whole month.
Yeah,
That's
that's
insane.
it. But the whole
Um,
thing is just insulting. I mean, the fact that we're even talking about this, it just shows just how disconnected the ANC is, and how they. I mean, how would anybody come up with 350 rand thinking that's enough to help anybody survive anything? I mean, that's insane.
but you see, it's not just the 350 rand. So like you get 350 rand for this like COVID relief fund, then or SASA grant or whatever for COVID. Then you
Hmm.
get another like $400 or something like that for if you have a kid. If you have three
Okay.
kids, then you're getting 400 per kid. Then you're
Okay.
unemployed, so that means or maybe you qualify for the basic income grant, which they might implement. So that's rumored to be around 1,300 rand. So you add
So
all
let's say
that,
let's 4,000 rand.
yeah. So which isn't enough to live in South Africa, but for
That's
some would argue
200.
that, yeah, some would argue that for some of the poor in South Africa that would be enough. But I no, not it would be enough to keep them poor.
$266.
It
Yeah,
would
it's
be
enough.
enough to
Yeah,
keep them
exactly.
poor. Um,
Yep, exactly right.
and that's what's going to happen. They become dependent on the government, and ergo, ANC buys their votes.
Well, that's exactly what they want, but we want the same thing on this side. I mean, listen, we are suffering from a workforce problem on this side of the Atlantic because these governments, these socialist scumbags, the Manchurian cadaver, and state governments around this country have been extending unemployment just like they did under Obama. People get unemployment for 5 years. That's not employment. That's retirement. You don't leave a job and you're not employed 5 years later. That's retirement, whether it's intentional or not. You're no longer in the workforce. Your skills aren't there. They've atrophied. It's nonsense. And to pay somebody an incentive not to work for 5 years is disgraceful, particularly when it comes out of my freaking pocket. I've been working my ass off for 40 years. It's bullshit. And so right now we have a workforce issue. And they're like, well, we have unemployment. We don't have an unemployment issue. We don't have people that want to work. Everywhere I go in the service industry, people can't be open. The local Wendy's in the town where I live
Mhm.
was closed for 6 months. You could go through the drive-through and burn carbon sitting in 35, car long queues waiting to get inside, polluting the environment. But you can't go inside. I mean, to get to the drive-through, you can't go inside and sit down. Why? Because of the Rona? No, because they couldn't get anybody to work in the place because they're making more money from unemployment plus this big fat generous tax payment that's just burying us in debt on top of that. And so they're making more money than working. They've devalued the honest value of working, the moral rightness of working, and how it makes people feel better about themselves. They contribute, they do something to society. They're turning people into leeches, sponges, living like boils off the ass of society. And it's disgraceful. It's immoral. It's wrong. And you don't have to be a religious person to think that. It's simply immoral, and it's absolutely wrong. So now I was in Atlanta for the rugby Eastern Conference final, and then I was like boiling. It was 98 degrees, and it's just cooking. And
Sure.
so I walked down the street to this Waffle House. I've never gone to a Waffle House before, first time ever.
Nice.
I came inside and I ordered something, and I thanked the two people working there, a young black gentleman and an older lady, and I thanked them for working. They said, "Why?" I said, "Because you're working. Appreciate it. Thank goodness you're working, or I wouldn't have been able to walk in here. There's nowhere else for me to walk within 2 miles. I wouldn't have been able to get a lemonade and some tea to cool down. Thank you for working. I
Yeah.
appreciate it." And everywhere I go in a service station now, I thank Wendy's, McDonald's, if I happen to go there, Starbucks, I thank them for working because a lot of people aren't working
You
because
know
they don't
what?
have to.
Yeah, you know what? Like, kind of the same things happening here, but it's more because of the lockdown. Like people, have lost their businesses and stuff, so they become unemployed. But the
Yeah.
other day, I was helping a friend do some shopping, and they were buying like quite expensive, not expensive, but what they bought was a lot of office equipment. And it's never happened to me ever. I'm walking out. South Africans will know the place, Decofern. It's like IKEA, and we're walking out, and the guy at the door that greets you and sanitizes you said, "Thank you so much for shopping here. Thank you so much for buying. You just paid our salaries." I was like, "Yo, that's heavy."
Yeah, and Ronaldo is always forever joking about, he gets a super chat for, 40 Rand and pays his rent for the month. But the reality is that patronizing these businesses save jobs. And these idiots that run around, these leftists like, oh, capitalist, profit. Well, the world has to work on an incentive.
Yeah.
And that's a very effective incentive. When you allow the free market to dictate, then goods and services will flow where there's demand, and they'll not go where there's not demand, and the market will adjust accordingly. But when you try to fix a market place and corrupt it, you get unwanted consequences, and you get unemployment, you get misery, and you get the ANC and the Democrats.
Yeah, exactly. And no, it was just a sad. I've never walked out of a shop where someone like literally said like, "Oh, thank you, you just paid our salaries." It was just a bit of a shock, and for you to say it's kind of the opposite of what your story was saying, where you were like,
Mhm.
you were thanking those that were working so that you could get, um, your
Service, yeah.
refreshments and stuff. So it's yeah, the world at the moment is in a very interesting place. And just to get back to what you were saying earlier as well, like you were saying how all these people just want this free stuff, and like it
Mhm.
demotivates people because when they're being paid to just do nothing, they're not motivated. Don't people realize that at some point money's gonna run out? Like you can only take from the taxpayer payer for so long, and there's only a finite amount of money. And now I know America's also been printing money as well, and South Africa's been talking about printing money. But that's a problem because when you print money, inflation happens. I mean, does no one remember the Great Depression?
Does no one remember Zimbabwe of the Odd Decade or the Weimar Republic? It's the list is endless of countries that take this. In fact, as I've said previously, and I just said in a couple programs, I think I mentioned Big Data Liberty. If it wasn't for the bastardization of our currency by the Bush and Obama administrations with quantitative easing, which just means printing more money, increasing money supply. If it wasn't for that and the fact that there's only two reserve currencies left in the world, the euro and the dollar. We go back 30 years ago, the British pound, the Swiss franc, the German Deutschmark, the Japanese yen, the British, and they were all reserve currencies. But with the advent of the euro, it pretty much just became the dollar and the euro. If it wasn't for the bastardization of our currency and the undermining of it by printing more money, making it worth less, our currency would have collapsed had it not been for Europe's euro being in such trouble because of Greece, Portugal, Spain, Italy, and Ireland. And the only reason the euro didn't collapse, the dollar didn't collapse, because there's nowhere to go. You got to be in one or both of the currencies, so the traders didn't have an option. It's not like they can go to the Chinese renminbi as a reserve currency, despite the fact the IMF fraudulently claims it's a reserve currency. Nobody holds renminbi except the Chinese communists. Nobody puts that stuff in their bank. That's ridiculous. So, and nobody buys Swiss francs anymore because it's so tiny in the modern world. 40 years ago, the Swiss economy was still one of the largest in the world for a little country of 6 million people then. But today, those 6 million people just don't have the economic heft that they once had. So, yeah, it's a foolhardy approach to print more money. It's stupid and it undermines the value. It's no different than mail-in ballots, letting people have mail-in ballots, and defrauding people of their vote, legitimate voters, by letting anybody fill out ballots and dump them in boxes. You cheapen the value of a vote for those who are eligible to vote. If you print more money, you cheapen the value of the money that's out there, and people can't buy things. They have to pay more for it. It's as simple as that. It's not rocket science.
Speaking about mail-in ballots, how do you feel about the possible postponement of the elections in South Africa?
Well, I think it's total bullshit. First off, let me clarify here for those listening, if you haven't heard me say this before. Let's put this in perspective. Mark Oppenheimer was just on my program a short while ago. He said over 100 countries around the world have had elections during the pandemic.
Yep.
That's probably true. I don't keep track of the whole world. I keep track of North America and Europe and Africa. I can tell you that in Africa, over 30 or more countries in Africa have had elections during the pandemic. And there have been well over 35 elections because some have presidential and parliamentary, the two rounds. Anyway, let's see. Let's run through the list of these world colossuses in economic power and governance and infrastructure. Countries like the Central African Republic, successful election during the pandemic. Somaliland, a country that's not recognized but by 6 other countries around the world, successful elections, peaceful. Ethiopia, with a war going on in the Tigray province and about 25% of the total country unable to vote because of domestic terrorism and the polls being closed as a consequence of violence around the country, they had an election. Niger just had an election for president and had a runoff election, another election because it was so close. And they elected the first ever Arab as the head of state. It's a black African country with some Arabs in it, some Tuaregs. First ever Arab, peaceful in the midst of a jihad campaign going against their government. So hearing South Africa with the most advanced infrastructure, the most advanced telecommunications, the most advanced road network, with the most advanced healthcare system on the entire continent, regardless, even poor people by and large have better healthcare than most other Africans do in South Africa. Even if they don't have any healthcare, it's better than most places. Even all that, and we can't hold an election in South Africa. That's total bullshit. And I was being provocative when I had Mark Oppenheimer, and I said that, former Deputy Chief Justice Moseneke is captured, and he defended Moseneke and says he's not captured. I was trying to get that response because, what kind of conclusion do you come to when the guy recommends it's not safe? How can it not be safe to have an election in South Africa when in CAR, the Central African Republic, they had an election, Somaliland had an election? This is just lunacy, sheer lunacy. Listen, I went to 3 elections in the last 18 months, and knock on wood, I've never picked up anything. I maintain social distance. I use good hygiene practices. If I shook someone's hand, I didn't rub my nose afterwards. I washed my hands next. Use good judgment, and I was okay. So, come on. We didn't have the jab. You've got the jab. People are getting, protected against it. We didn't have any protection in May of last year for the primaries, in November for the elections. Only this year. In fact, this year I couldn't even have the jab at that point because we had the elections this year for the primary, and there was no jab available because I'm white.
Yeah, like this, that's the thing though. Like they say, it's not safe to hold the elections in South Africa. And I'm like,
it's not safe for the ANC. That's what it's not safe for.
Yeah, because I'm like, well, we like, you're forcing everyone to be under lockdowns. You're forcing everyone to be, in social distance and all that stuff. And like you just said, all those countries that have held elections, America held elections, the whole world's been having elections. I find it very hard. I mean, they're going to the court now. To see if it will be passed. I'm fairly confident it won't happen. I'm hoping that the courts will see that this is a attempt from the ANC to postpone elections so that they can somehow do some PR campaign for the next year to try and win or buy, mostly buy, voters again. Because the ANC polls are at the all-time low, dude. Like, they are really, really, really low at the moment. And the ANC knows this. The ANC knows they're in trouble. So I think this is everything. The riots, postponement of elections, everything's to do with elections. It's just so they can come in and appear as the heroes. Oh, we don't want you to elect this, like, in October, because apparently, they had it down to the day. That the fourth wave is going to start on the same day that the elections were supposed to happen. It's like, what? Let me get this straight. You can predict the fourth wave, but you can't predict when there's going to be a thunderstorm the next day. Like, what the hell? How do we have such good technology to predict when a wave is going to happen? Like, come on, people.
Well, we had 8 full months of Rona in South Africa last month and a few isolated cases before that. Do you have any idea? Do you think that Corona was the number one cause of mortality in South Africa last year in 2020?
No.
No. Tuberculosis was higher than malaria, or higher than Rona. 34,000 tuberculosis deaths in South Africa in 2020 and 31,000 attributed to the Rona. So, people losing their freaking mind.
I don't know, man. I think.
So now you're talking, it's 18 months later, and you've had 70,000 deaths in a country of 60 million people. 18 months. That's not unusual. I'm getting tired of hearing about these spikes in mortality. It's not a spike in mortality. Other categories of fatalities are lower because they're not being attributed to that. In the United States, every year, we have an average between 30 and 40 some million case of influenza. For 2020, the CDC predicted, because it's prediction, 34 to 42 million cases of influenza. And they tend to be pretty accurate because they've got decades of experience with this, and they look at conditions and the virulency of the particular strain for circulating. And we have this advantage because the northern and southern hemisphere have different seasons because, winter tends to be the time it propagates because you're indoors around people hacking all over them, sneezing all over them. So they're pretty good at this. So last year, they predicted 34 to 42 million cases. And want to take a guess at how many cases? It wasn't 0. Want to take a guess how many cases were reported to the CDC for influenza in 2020? Just take a rough guess. 5-month flu season.
1,000.
No, actually, no. It's 1,750. From 34 million? Come on, man. What are you, Joe Biden? You going to buy that?
Oh man, no, these I don't know, man. Like, the whole world at the moment is just, I don't know. Ramon has an interesting episode coming out tomorrow. I suggest you guys watch it. He told me
I never hear from Ramon anymore. I write to him. He writes back like a 3-word sentence. I'm like, how you doing, man? I'm fine.
he was chatting to me about his episode, and because he's going to be talking about the passport vaccine, or the vaccine passport, and he wanted to know if he's going to get a strike, and I said, well, I don't know, because I don't know what you're exactly talking about, but
Yeah, or having had the experience of not committing the offense and being deplatformed for not committing the offense over a fraudulent claim, I'd be very careful. But no,
that's
here's
what I
very
told him.
frustrating, Joe, because for instance, yesterday Marjorie Taylor Greene, the firebrand Georgia legislator who is outspoken, and they're attacking her, they're trying to kick her out of Congress and all that stuff. She was interviewed, and it was covered by the main media networks, and it was on YouTube. 80,000 views within the first 4, not deplatformed, no strike, no sanctions. My goodness, I have a woman say that there something is not present in a particular location, and I get a 2-week ban in the middle of a live interview. What the hell's that? It's just nonsense. It's
Thank
because
you for
the
censoring
PooTube
yourself.
exists. Yeah, well, I've gotten pretty good at it, very good at it. I mean, when I talk about the choosing, of 2020, so it's just so wrong. But that's a whole other topic there. But
Yeah,
no, if I were Ramon, I'd be very careful about what I say and do when it comes to that topic.
that's what I told him. I've gotten a strike on
Yeah.
my channel as well, so I told him, like, just be careful with how you word things. So he said, okay, cool.
Well,
So we'll see.
Leon Lodigan, when I was on Saturday in Atlanta, he did a live stream. The first time he tried a live stream, because he does prepare videos on wildlife, and he was trying to raise money for one of his students. He's a teacher whose family lost their home in a fire, and so he's just trying to raise money. So I went there and made a donation, and he started talking about the Rona, and I'm like, hey, Leon, got to be careful here. You got to be careful. His video was demonetized after the fact, and he said yesterday on Ronaldo's channel, he said, Chris warned me. I tried. I mean, but you got to be careful. It's the AI has no conscience.
Yep. Hey, this probably will be demonetized, and that's fine. Because we mentioned Corona a few times, and
No, you can
yeah,
say it. I'm overly cautious about even saying it, but no, you just got to be careful not to talk about, certain things that cover certain things, and,
okay.
and taking certain things, if you stay away from that, you're usually okay. But my advice is just, did I just say anything at all? No, I didn't. Let's
It's funny how you
platform
can.
him.
It's funny how you can say stuff like that, and we understand what you're saying.
Exactly. It's crazy. Crazy.
Anyway, let's okay.
Yeah.
So what's
Moving on,
happening in
moving on.
South Africa? What's happening in South Africa? This is where I want to, as it stands right now, ladies and gentlemen. One of the reasons why I wanted to get Chris on to talk about this is because he is very, as we all know, as most of you know that are watching this probably right now, very, very. Chris is very invested in Africa. He's spent most of his military years in Africa. He's a retired colonel, for those of you who may not know that, but I doubt it very much. I think a lot of people here already know who you are. Speaking of which, I want to say hi to Cameron. He says good evening, so I'm saying hi to him. Jax T, thank you for tuning in. Anti-Marxist, thank you for also coming in. Pixie, and of course the Pet Zoo film crew, and Erica, and Robert ZA. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for tuning in. For those of you who I may have missed out, thank you for tuning in. If you have any questions, please shoot them. If you want to ask Chris anything about South Africa with what is going on now, because here's the thing. This is what we're talking about. We're talking about what's going on now. And I want to pick Chris's brain. Being in the military, being in intelligence, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
I theorized that this is all about elections and ANC trying to stay in power. Am I on the right track?
Well, okay. So there's actually interesting because that you raise that topic, Joe, because for the longest time since the 27th of March last year, when the 21-day state of emergency began, and it persists to this day, 500 days later or thereabouts, a lot of people said that by the time we get to the election, South Africans are going to forget about all the pain that the ANC's made them suffer with no open-toed shoes, no cooked chicken, no sit-down restaurant, don't leave your house, no e-commerce. That made a lot of sense, didn't it? No cigarettes, no alcohol. They're all going to forget about that, and it's going to be okay, and they'll get their vote normal. And I argued against that, and I said that it's easy enough to stop that.
South Africa has a very short-term memory loss problem.
Well, they're just like Americans. We have so much in common. We whine about everything. South Africans, Americans bitch about everything under the sun. Anyway, but no, it's true. But the ANC, it's pretty clear they knew that they were in trouble before these riots, before Zuma was convicted of contempt of court by the Constitutional Court for not appearing before the State Capture Commission, the Zondo Commission that he created, the judge he appointed. Anyway, but Yeah, it was pretty clear they knew that they were in deep kimchi, so to speak. Now, the argument I think you're making thesis is that they knew this and that the riots played some role in it. Well, I don't know that they did or didn't, but what I do know is that this has given them a very convenient excuse to try to circumvent the Constitution, which I don't think they'll be able to pull off, and I hope they're not able to pull off. But I think that's what's at play here because they know they can never win an election right now. There's no way in God's green acre that this jackass jackal excuse for a party, which is a RICO operation, it's a criminal enterprise, could win anything. You know. People in South Africa, particularly white South Africans, I'm not picking white South Africans, but they're the ones that say most, tend to say that, well, South Africans will just keep voting for the ANC. By the implication, by that, I mean black South Africans and more specifically rural black South Africans. Let me tell you something, folks. The DA in Gauteng province in 2019, in an absolutely idiotic campaign led by Musi Maimane, a closet racist, married to a white woman with mixed race kids, so it's really must be a tough life for him. But a closet racist with his behavior, he led a party into a dark corner in which they made no sense in election campaign, and the DA lost support across the country. But despite that, they still got 17% of black voters in Gauteng province, the most populous and wealthiest province in South Africa, to vote for the DA. So the argument that black South Africans won't vote for someone other than DA is just nonsense. There was a time when the Inkatha Freedom Party was a viable opposition party before they were eviscerated by the ANC and Zuma being the ANC and the loss of people there. It's a very real possibility that millions of black South Africans will turn their backs on the ANC, even rural voters. I mean, people aren't that stupid. Some people are, but I'm not saying that the black voters are going to flock to the standards of other parties, but the votes are there for the picking. They're there for the taking. It's so easy. I mean, I don't even have to campaign. Look, here's my ad. Hey, that cooked chicken, how was that for you? Oh, you didn't get any. You didn't get any. How are those cigarettes? Did you enjoy paying that to that dodgy criminal enterprise down the street? You missing that Chibuku or that Castle Lager? Brought to you proudly by the African National Congress. Case closed, man. Okay, it's like aliens. Hicks. I don't know if you keep it score, man. We just got our asses kicked. Game over, dude. Game over. Hicks, calm down, Hicks.
But that's I don't know, man. Like, talk about the DA, right? And obviously the DA being one of the biggest or the biggest opposition party.
Yeah, the biggest.
But there's a lot of divide with the DA, and what I mean, not within the DA, but when you speak to your average South African about the DA,
sure.
You're either going to get I like or I don't like. People are confused about other parties, though. They're confused about, for example, I had Herman Mashaba on my show last night, and from Action SA, and I like what he had to say. I gotta admit, I think he is the Trump of South Africa in many ways. Just in terms of policy making, but not to say that that's a bad thing. I'm just saying, like, he did give that off, and I think he doesn't want to be associated with Trump. Because I asked him, I said, like, there's a headline called you the Trump of South Africa. He didn't seem to like that very much, but ironically gave an answer that was very much Trump-like. So I don't know, but anyway, not the point. The point is, what do you think, man? With the landscape now, we know the ANC is losing support. In your opinion, okay, from what you've been seeing, you've also been interviewing a lot of people, and you've had different parties. You recently had FF Plus on your channel. Who do you think is a viable option for the South African people?
Well, I stick to the same course of action I've been sticking to since March of last year when the lockdown started. I've told people this. You may not like the Democratic Alliance, and I have issues with them. Number one, they're not a centrist party. They're not a conservative party. They're a liberal leftist party. Not nationalization, social, but they're very much left of center. And so that would not be normally a party that I would align with. The Freedom Front Plus is attributed as an extreme right-wing, ultra-nationalist, racist party by some people. That's horseshit. That's not true either. Actually, if you look at the 2019 platforms for all the parties, the only party that actually got votes in parliament, that came reasonably close to a centrist or slightly one side of the other platform was the Freedom Front Plus. But what do I think is going to happen? Here's what you have to do. You have to stop complaining, South Africans. 17 million of you sat on your asses in the last national election. The traditional turnout in a municipal election is 31 and 38%. So guess what? If only 1 out of 3 people show up for an election, small parties can win. They can win. if you don't have to get 100,000 votes in a municipality, you only have to get 30,000 win election. Gee, that's a lot easier for you if your party's active bringing out voters or bringing new people to your standard. So what I said is that, listen, suck it up, Buttercup. If you don't like the DA, tough noogies. Get over your opposition. Hold your – look, I didn't like Trump in 2016. I voted for him. I held my nose because he's a cad. He's a bore. He's a bully. And I didn't like that. But Hillary Clinton's a felon. I couldn't vote for that criminal. I mean, she violated the Espionage Act. I'm a federal counterintelligence agent. I know what the law says. She violated it. It doesn't matter whether she had intent or not. She should be in jail. You know, orange is the new black, Hillary. Get your jumpsuit. Anyway, so, you know, suck it up, Buttercup. You know, you have to vote for people you don't necessarily like for the greater good. Now, people say, but they failed here. They failed. I don't care. I'll give you the case. If you have legitimate people in the opposition party who want to govern, like Athol Trollop in Nelson Mandela Bay, you can see real change. And we saw real change in Nelson Mandela Bay in the period that he was mayor, despite the fact that the coalition was constantly undermined and he had to fight to keep the coalition together. He had to devote a third to half of his time to keeping his government together rather than providing service. And despite that, the improvement in the city was demonstrably better than anything the ANC had done since 94 in just a year and a half. It was amazing. But the problem is this: you can't rule in a coalition. South Africans are fond of saying, oh, coalition. That's nonsense. Maybe at the national level, you know, you could try that in the 2023 elections, but you cannot try that at the municipal level. You must have outright governance. So you're not beholden to a party with one seat that makes them the kingmaker. And they're like, well, you know what? We want tenders, or, you know, I want this, or I want, no, we're here to serve the people, not serve ourselves, you little shithead. Get out of here. Absolutely. So if you have to have a coalition, you have a situation like the DA had Nelson Mandela Bay and they lose control. Now, I'm not saying everybody should go vote for the DA, but if the DA is the only party that's viable, and I'll give you the places where the DA is a viable party to win, and I'll tell you where it's not a viable. Cape Town, you got to vote DA. They should win DA. Now, Dr. Groenewald from Freedom Plus thinks that they won't get a majority in Cape Town. He thinks that's an assumption on my part, and maybe he's right. We'll see. But I think it's mostly because his party supports Cape Exit and the DA doesn't. A lot of people are into Cape Exit. So he might have a legitimate point, but I have no data to support it. That's why I'm not making that bet right now. But in my view, the DA should win in Cape Town. They should easily win Nelson Mandela Bay. They would have won Nelson Mandela Bay in 2016 if they'd only retained their voting base from 2011. They lost 9,000 votes that they had in 2011 and 2016 with even more voters. So because of that, they didn't get an outright majority. But if they had those 9,000 votes, they would have had it. So Cape Town, Nelson Mandela Bay, Joburg. Now, the wild card is Herman Mashaba. We'll get back to that. Shawna, Pretoria, they should win that. They should win that outright. No question about that. They were close last time at 45%, and they got this time they should easily win it. Now, I was not predicting that Durban would go. I said the ANC would be challenged. They probably get close to 50% in Durban, but it was the one, that and Bloemfontein are the two places I thought they might not drop below 50%. Guess what? Durban's in the game now, baby. You loot the port, burn the city, attack neighborhoods. Guess what? You're out of here. Futsec ANC. The ANC is dead in the water in Durban now. That opens the door for the IFP and for the DA or a coalition between the two of them to take control of Durban. If this happens, and if these parties govern legitimately in multiple locations across the country because people travel and they see their lives improving, 2023 comes and the ANC will drop below 50% and will need a coalition or won't even be able to rule with a coalition. That's what I predicted since June of last year. I started mentioning this thesis in March of last year, but the lockdown, people couldn't campaign. Once the campaign was able, starting in June, but none of them did. They're not out campaigning. And I'm sick of hearing people in the parties defend the party. Well, oh, you just don't know, Chris. They send text messages. You need to get out retail politics. Get off your bum and get in the streets, get in the mines, get in the hostels, get in the townships. KZN, Northern Cape, and Mpumalanga. Get your ass out there. Oh, well, you know, it's not safe for you guys. What do you mean it's not safe? Well, I'm not the right person. Well, then you know what? Then you need to recruit Venda and Swatis and Basutu and Tswana and Xhosa and Zulu to your standard. They need to be in your party. It's like the DA. Well, DA is a party of the whites. What? The majority of people in the DA are colored. What moron came up with the idea that party's a party of the whites? That's idiotic.
And the Wokies.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyway, the ones that hate us, Chris. The ones that gave this stream 2 dislikes. Those
well, those are just hate wankers, Joe. You're over 50 viewers now, man. That's impressive. I'm impressed,
man. It's all you, man. Everyone that's watching right now loves you, man. That's
for a channel with just 35 subscribers. That's a pretty impressive crowd.
You're missing a few zeros there. I'm just
Well, okay. That's true. Well, look, it's new math. I had Common Core.
saying. No, I think like you make some interesting points because I I'm Franz Cornier, right, said the other day that he thinks that by 2030, ANC will no longer be in power. And his reasoning behind that is because he looks at the age of supporters. So you looked at, I think,
Right.
you
They'll
said
all be dead. They'll be gone.
yeah. So the majority of people that are carrying the ANC at the moment are the older ones, the ones above 50 at the moment, because they remember apartheid and all that stuff. They're obviously, by the time the next election comes along, they're not going to be on this earth. May God rest their soul. I'm not trying to make fun of them. But it's true. And then the next generation after that are the ones that actually don't like the ANC. They have the lowest support for the ANC. Now that I mean, your theory is good. I like your theory, and I think there's credibility there. But I think Franz Cornier makes a very good point when it comes to age. With the new generation that are coming out now, and in a few years they realize how bad some of the policies are. They can't get a job, blah blah blah, and then they start to dislike the ANC. That just grows, and you gotta think, or you is the writing on the wall? Is the point I'm trying to get at? Do you think the writing is on the wall for the ANC?
The writing's been on the wall since Zuma became president. When you elect an alleged rapist and a clear criminal who stole from an arms contract, and that judgment's already been made. By the way, that's not my opinion. Judge Hillary Squires, whatever his name is, he determined that Sheikh Shabir's payments to Jacob Zuma were criminal, and that if he were trying Jacob Zuma, he would have convicted him of fraud. And so, so that's not an opinion on my part. So when you pick someone that be the president of your country who's got 37,000 wives and chuckles about it, I mean, you can't be taken seriously. The handwriting's been on the wall for the ANC for a long time. It's just taken South Africans a long time to wake up out of their stupor and start to realize this in large numbers. Now, Franz Crony is not wrong, and that actually just supports my argument. You need to be out there and you need to be among people. So last year, early in the days of my channel, when Willem Petzer came on my channel, he called me naive. And he called me naive, and I'm not speaking ill of Willem, he's a decent guy, but he called me naive because I guess he just assumed I know anything about South Africa. He didn't really know much about me at the time. But he called me naive because he said, listen, Chris, I've been on campus. I was at university. I'm like, who said that about university, Willem? So you think that you're going to change? I didn't say this, but I want to say, you think you're going to change South Africa's electoral outcome by recruiting 60,000 college students to vote for your standard? That's not going to work. I'm talking about getting in youth hostels. I'm talking about not youth hostels, in work hostels, in mining camps, in the rural areas, in townships, where people live, in suburbs, in high-rise apartment buildings in Hillbrow. Yeah, Hillbrow, folks. There's voters there. Yeah, you might have to wear body armor, but you can go to Hillbrow. My point. So I'm not naive. People need to listen to what the hell I'm saying. You got to get out there. The young kids you're talking about are the ones I'm talking about. I have been a lifelong conservative, not because the Republicans recruited me, because those are the views I've held my entire life. Now, I've actually had some more liberal views in the past. Like, I was agnostic when it came to abortion when I was younger, but then I learned more about it, come to find out what a truly reprehensible and murderous practice it is. And so I don't support that anymore. Now, I'm not running around blowing up abortion clinics or attacking people or demonizing people for doing it, but I'm opposed to it. If I had my druthers, it wouldn't be possible except in the most dire circumstances. The point is that, by and large, I've pretty much kept the same views. And you don't take 45-year-olds who've been supporting the ANC their entire life and turn them into DA voters unless they've been wronged by the ANC. That and you might get some of those people now. So actually, when I say this, I haven't specifically said it, but I'm talking about people under 35. That's what I'm talking about. Those are people who change. And when you show them, and your party's out there to see your party doing things, you see your party accomplishing things, services work, you can actually go to a municipal office and someone answers your question, or they're actually there. What a neat concept that is, then your party will win votes. And the way to do it is at the service level. That's what the ANC is terrified of, because at the service level, the municipalities, that's where people see real change. Not in parliament, not with some leader that nobody votes for except members of parliament. Nobody picked Nelson Mandela to be president. Well, members of parliament did. Nobody picked Cyril Ramaphosa. Members of parliament did. Not South Africans. You didn't get to vote on those guys for president. So anyway, you got to do it at the retail level, which is the municipal level, and that's the most important thing. The ANC realized this early on. And that's why in the mid 1990s, they intentionally reorganized all the municipalities. There were like 1,200 municipalities in South Africa, and now there's only 231 or thereabouts. They reorganized them, and like Joburg, subsumed all the small towns around it. Now, the impact of that is twofold. Number one, The ANC has all these little towns they wouldn't have controlled because the DA, well, it wasn't DA then, it was Democratic Party or the New National Party or the Freedom Front Plus or something like that, or IFP would have won those towns because they're smaller and they can win those, and so they get the mayor, they get the town council, but now it's all part of Joburg or all part of Durban, and there's one council, there's one mayor, and because you've got hundreds of thousands of votes that are guaranteed yours in your party, everybody in those small towns don't count anymore. They've lost their vote, essentially. That's the first thing. Second thing is you undermine the validity of democracy because the opposition parties never come to power. So you could be like the Movement for Democratic Change in Zimbabwe. The first time they come to power, they're in parliament. They've never served in a town council, in a regional administration, in a provincial office, or in the bureaucracy. They don't know anything about it. So they're learning on the fly. And as a consequence, they're less than effective. And that is one of the key things the ANC did to undermine democracy intentionally. They intended to stay in power into perpetuity, and they amalgamated municipalities to make that happen. And it's paid off. Now is the time for South Africans to strike back by taking the ANC out in the municipalities. Vote DA. If you're in a small town, like in the Northern Cape or the Free State, where the Freedom Front Plus is in power, or the UDM in the Transkei or somewhere like that, or in Inkatha Freedom Party, if that party has the best chance, then vote for them. Vote for them. I'm not just saying, but the reality is that the only party that can win Cape Town, Nelson Mandela Bay, Joburg, and Pretoria is the DA outright. They're the only one who can win it outright. And so now let me get back to one other thing here real quick. Herman Mashaba. I didn't know you had him on, so I apologize for missing that stream last night, but
No,
I didn't know that. No, but I would like to have caught it because I've been less than kind about Herman Mashaba. I'd like to have him as a guest, but I'm not so sure he'd want to come on my program. I mean, I would treat him fairly. I would treat him fairly, but I have said that, from the outside, his comments when he left the DA were very much akin to race mercantilism. I didn't appreciate the comments he made about the DA, and he didn't fully explain them. So I don't know, maybe he might want to explain that, but and I've also said that I'm not sure. Go ahead.
If you watch my stream, like I did ask him, but he referred to apparently a press conference that he did shortly after when he left the DA, and he said you can find it on Google where he explained everything. So just letting you know.
I thought I saw the press conference. Maybe I didn't, but I'll have to go back and look at it. But anyway, that's the big question I have about Herman Mashaba. He was a relatively decent, effective mayor of Johannesburg. He was popular, and that's the wild card. So when he announced Action SA, he said it's not a political party; it's just like-minded people. Well, clearly it's a political party. They're trying to run for office now, and he's going to stand as So I mean, but I predicted that's what was going to happen all along. And since he has popularity in the business community, he has popularity with some DA voters, and he has popularity with some Black South Africans. It's a very real possibility he could pull a third of the vote, which would leave Johannesburg in chaos, needing a coalition. And there's a real possibility that Herman gets 25% or 35% of the vote, or maybe more, depending on how popular he is these days, but not enough to have an outright majority. So he'll have to go into coalition, and ironically, he'll be turning to the Freedom Front Plus and or the DA, because I can't imagine him going to the ANC, because if he's serious about his pro-market, his pro-capitalist views, then there's no way he can line with the ANC.
No, he's definitely not going to be with the ANC. He hates the ANC. I mean, he was very vocal about that on my show last night, where he's actually doing a class action lawsuit against them as well. No. He absolutely hates the ANC. And let me tell you, if he does do a coalition with the ANC, it would be like when the DA made a coalition with the EFF. It will absolutely destroy his image, because that's what their whole campaign is on how much they hate the ANC. So
yeah, there you go. So so I don't see that happening. So the irony is he'll have to form a coalition, most likely with the DA, a party that he accused of racism. And that's awkward. And that's the reason for asking the question. I think it's a legitimate question for a journalist to ask.
I think in politics, especially in South Africa, I think it'll be like water under the bridge, I think.
No, but see, the problem, Joe, is that's the most despicable card to call against somebody, because that muck sticks, whether it's true or not.
It does.
Because people believe it. So
people are calling
it's underhanded.
Racist. People are calling him racist. People are calling him xenophobic, So I think.
He's definitely been accused of being xenophobic. That's for sure. And he's actually made some comments that are certainly xenophobic. Whether he meant them or not, I don't know, or the context.
Yeah. So like what I'm saying is, like, I think when the push comes to shove, when the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of scenario, they might just like, you know what? Yes, said some crappy shit in the past, but in order to get our biggest enemy out of power, let's just do this. That I think that it's going to be that kind of vibe if they were to do a coalition. Very quickly, I just want to address this super sticker that came in for 21 Rand. Thank you so
Cool.
much, Game Bread. Interesting name. But thank you so much for the super sticker. It is greatly appreciated. Cool. So we are almost, well, actually our hour is up. So, but I did wanna, did you finish your thought there? Because I interrupted you.
Oh yeah, no, we talked about Herman Chavez. No, I finished it. What I will have to say this, Joe, is that one, thanks. You linked me up with Mark Oppenheimer, someone I hadn't had time to get around trying to reach out to, and I appreciate that. I would be very interested in getting Mashab on my channel if you don't mind me linking him up with him. If you don't
I'll
have to answer that
speak
now.
to his media guy because he has a media
Okay.
guy. So
Well,
I'll
you know,
send him.
he'll get treated fairly.
I'll
He'll get
tell
treated
them.
fairly.
I'll tell them. You're very like unbiased and stuff like that, and you just want to have an interview. You're in America, chat about South Africa and Herman Mashaba himself, and yeah, I don't see why they would say no. So yeah, I mean, I'm a
Well, you
nobody.
can also let them know that I've been giving people opportunities. I've had some DA folks on. I've had the Freedom Front Plus on. I've had the UDM on. Don't forget the UDM because it might look like I'm just going for the white vote.
No. I'll tell them. I'll tell them that you've had many different South African parties on, and we would very much like to interview you. Yeah, I'll speak to him tomorrow. Just remind me. Send me a WhatsApp. Remind
Cool.
me.
Absolutely.
But yeah, man, I'm gonna go watch your Mark Oppenheimer episode after this because I like Mark. He's pretty cool. And yeah, watch if you get a chance. Watch the Herman Mashaba. I was very nice. I asked him general questions. I let him speak. He seemed like a decent guy, nice guy. I didn't feel like he was a racist or a xenophobic person or anything.
No,
like that.
I mean, that's why I think it's necessary for clarification because I was very I mean, I take it very viscerally when people throw that card out there, and it came across as that. And I didn't call him a racist. I said the language he used was very race mercantilist. That's very disturbing.
Yeah.
And but what I have to say about Herman Mashaba is that he's an incredibly successful businessman, a real businessman, and under apartheid he was a successful businessman.
Yeah.
Contrary to the myth
He
about
mentions
black
that,
South
yeah.
Africans. Yeah, no, he was very successful in apartheid, and not because he was in collusion with the government, because he had a good business model, he had a good business plan, and he had a good product and good services, and so very successful. And so the disappointment for me was that is that he had this falling out with the DA, and that's very because it allowed the ANC to start their nonsense about it's a party of the whites. Look, Helen Zilla's coming back. Of course, Helen Zilla, which did more for the liberation struggle than most people in the ANC ever could aspire to. Yet she's attacked and demonized as a racist and a pro-colonization person, which is utter nonsense. But yeah, no. So it was really disappointing for Seema Shaba to leave the party. And I'm not a supporter of the DA. I thought it was healthy for South Africa's democracy to have him as mayor of Joburg and his success there. So anyway, I'd love to get him on, and he would be treated fairly. So, but thanks for that. I appreciate it. And thanks for having me back on your program, Joe. It's been a while. We've both been very busy trying to build our brand and build our product. And I actually seen that you've actually put some comedy stuff up now. So I'm gonna have to go see if you're actually funny, man.
Yeah, no, I've put some funny stuff on for those of you that are watching. Go check it out. It's called the Social Media Circus, where I basically commentate, narrate, and make some jokes about the current social media posts that are going around in South Africa. So it's local content in South Africa, and it's quite funny. I've been told. I'm not boasting. I've been told. So please go check it out. And those of you that are new to this channel, consider subscribing, man. I'm gonna have Chris back. I want to try and get you back as more often as possible, especially as things develop here in South Africa. I think what is happening. I was telling my wife the other day, like I think what is happening now in South Africa is probably a very interesting time to be living in South Africa because you've got this faction war, if there is one. I'm still holding reservations on even that, but just the way things are unfolding in South Africa in general, it's an interesting time to be part of it, and I'm still holding my stance that this is all about elections, and I hope that the South African people will wake up and not fall for not be hoodwinked. I think is a good term to
That's the right word. Not be hoodwinked. I agree with you. No, it is. We are living in consequential times. My fear, though, is that these leftists will do more harm before they're stopped around the world. I mean, people being arrested in Australia. It's just off the charts. What's happening in the UK? They banned demonstrations. Of course, they're not enforcing it because they would just be overrun by the demonstrators. But it's technically illegal to demonstrate in the UK now. And that's not hyperbole. I'm not making that stuff up. The Parliament passed the legislation.
Man.
It's crazy.
Here. No, we're not allowed. What they call it, in
Gatherings.
lockdown level 4, we weren't allowed to do political gatherings. That's how they've
Right.
it.
No, but see, in South Africa, that's a lockdown measure. In the UK, that's a law now.
Oh.
That's a law, not related to lockdown. It's a law, which is insane. And I can't. Yeah, that's a grift if I ever saw it. But yeah, no. Thanks, Joe. I'm happy to come back on more in the future. Not a problem. My Wednesdays get kind of full now because we always do Wednesdays with the Colonel on Ronaldo host program because he lives in the former Port Elizabeth, now known as Berna.
Yeah.
He lives there. Yeah, that's the place. Yeah, Hanna-Barbera. Hanna-Barbera. Yogi Bear. Hey, boo-boo, we got a picnic basket. A picnic basket, boo-boo. Yeah, so Wednesdays are busy, and also I'm back on the radio. I don't know if you saw that show.
Yes.
But, I'm back on the radio on WSMN in Nashua, New Hampshire, and they've been trying to convince me to do my own daily show, which is a big commitment. That's going to have to come up with some quan because I'm not going to work and do a daily radio show 5 days a week, even if there's a chance to get syndicated. So I'm back on radio. So anyway, but I think we've got to cut it there because you're up against the clock.
No worries. Yeah. So are you going to be streaming now, Chris? Let your fans here know that they should join you.
They're not fans. They're viewers. They're not fans. Only leftists on Twitter have fans, and sports icons who are mislabeled heroes. LeBron James is not a hero. He's a scumbag communist sympathizer who's a sports icon. Just saying. They're viewers. No, loyal viewers, sticky viewers, if you will. But yeah, no, I will be doing a Night Owls edition. Hey, there's Helen. Did somebody say Santa? Yeah. I'll be doing a Night Owls edition here at 9:35 South Africa, Botswana, Namibia time, and at 3:35 Eastern Standard as a follow-up from earlier. And I didn't cover the news earlier today, so I'll be going over the news quickly in that stream. So thanks a lot for that plug, Joe. I appreciate it. No problem. Folks, thanks for the super chat you sent Joe there. Feel free to send him more in the future. Yeah. Hey, Joe, you don't have to answer this question, but have you been getting any payouts? Because I discovered from Conscious Caracal that he had never gotten a payout from Amazon, or not from Amazon, from Google, from Google, and all the time his channel had been up. And I was just dismayed by that. So what we did, and I'm not saying I'll do it, but maybe I could do it for you if you're in the same boat, is that I hatched a plot and I convinced my viewers to go over to the Conscious Caracal stream one day a few weeks back, and we stalked his channel, and then we just blew up super chat. So he's finally going to get paid for the first time ever.
Yeah, no, I do get payouts as long as it hits the threshold. I've been getting my payouts as long as it hits the threshold.
Is the threshold 1,000 rand? Is that the deal in South Africa? Okay, cool.
Yeah, but
cool.
You can change it after time. Ernst did fund me and ask me about that, and I gave him some guidance as well. So hopefully he comes right in the next month or so.
Well, he definitely came right this month because
fantastic. Awesome.
He hooked him up.
Awesome.
I could only hope for a super chat day like that. That was awesome.
Fantastic. All right, cool, Chris. Guys, go join him on his stream shortly. Chris, once again, thank you so much for joining me. It was really an enlightening conversation. I enjoy having these conversations with you because you definitely have a outsider's perspective of all this and definitely see the side that other people may not see. And speaking of which, Deborah Oliver giving 140 Rand super chat. Thank you, Joe. Thank you so much, Deborah. You are amazing as always. Thank you so much, Deborah. It's payday, people. Come on.
Joe, that's a French name. It's Olivier.
Olivier. Okay, sorry. That's that. What's that like? Olivier, like L'Oreal.
Well, that we have these big shopping stores in America. There's Jacques Penney, J.C. Penney,
yeah.
and then there's Target or Target.
Does J.C. Penney still exist?
They do, but they're in bankruptcy right now.
Someone told me they closed down.
Oh, they closed a whole bunch of them, but the business is in bankruptcy right now. So, or as they prefer to call it in South Africa, they're in business rescue. Just like Mango, they're in business rescue.
Oh my word, let's not even get into that. All right, cool, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you, Chris. As I say, always stay safe, be kind to one another, and I'll see you at the next one. Cheers.